Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. Shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where we'll be chatting as per usual. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about necessarily today. I mean, I guess it would be more holiday stuff, but really right now what I was doing was just filling in my expenses, I suppose, from a holiday. And you might be like, what does that mean? Are you being like an accountant? No, that's not really what I mean. I mean, like, obviously, on a holiday, everyone pays different amounts of things, because some people pay for something, some people don't pay for anything, etc., etc., etc. But, now that all is said and done, we got to, settle and balance the books to make sure that everyone is getting is it remuneration? I suppose, for the amount they paid. But anyway, good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 9:19 p.m. on Wednesday, September 20, 2023. So we have like this big spreadsheet. There's like a fantastic spreadsheet going on because, as I said, the person who organised it, she very much loves her Excel. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but we used to do this thing in Genshin Impact where we would, we called it Auction Impact, where basically we did the Spiral Abyss, which is basically a challenge mode, but we auctioned off characters from the game, and you had to like bid on the characters if you wanted to be able to use them in the super hard mode. We haven't done that for anymore, mainly because it kind of got a bit stale, I assume. But it was a fun time. I bet it became like a very annoying time, I suppose, as a Spiral Abyss got harder. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, she loves her Excel, not macros, but just formulating, that sort of thing. And honestly, I do as well. I think Excel is grossly underrated, I suppose, for all the power it provides. Obviously, I'm not saying, hey, go store your million-row database in Excel. That's absurd. But for anything from a small to mid-scale, I think it's pretty good. And I mean small scale is in like less in the numbers of tens. And in mid-scale, I'd say it's probably good up to about maybe a couple thousand, depending how intensive what you have is going on. I wouldn't recommend it for things above 1,000 unless for the very most basic of tasks, but it's fine. And really the best thing about Excel is how accessible it is. Accessible, okay, the pun doesn't work, ignore me, but it's very accessible. So, I certainly have appreciation. But anyway, we're filling in this big spreadsheet, basically being like, how much money is owed. And this is, it's amusing because I remember one of the first big holidays I had as a group, which was after secondary school. We me and quite a few friends, I think it was like a dozen of us maybe, went around Europe for a while, going from different countries, and I was the one who was basically balancing the books in that regard. It was my accountancy work experience, I suppose, coming to play there. But I'm going to give you, if you ever have to, do the balancing of books with yourselves and you're not using something like Splitwise or some sort of app to automatically do it for you, one, fair. But two, I mean, there's a lot of nice, like, programs nowadays which do it for you. Like Monzo, you can open up a shared tab between anyone else who has Monzo, and then you can... I only found out that was from a holiday I had with my friends in Spain, and it's actually pretty cool. It's super easy to actually split things up. But of course, not everyone has Monzo. Not everyone, pays for Monzo. Everyone's got different bank accounts, especially, when you have 10 plus people. So sometimes you just got to do good old book balancing on spreadsheets. But I'm going to give you the pros tip ever, if you ever need to balance these books. Because, it's something... I actually had a conversation, again, with a friend who made this Excel spreadsheet about it during a dinner, because it's actually a method I use all the time, I suppose, for balancing the books per se. Normally I just do it on a smaller scale, and I've never really thought about it, but of course, I had a conversation with her about it where it's just like, okay, we need to like theoretically prove that this actually works. But basically, if you ever have like an interconnected web of people owing each other money, aka lots of transactions between people, and you're just like, how am I ever going to sort this out? The super pro thing you need to you can realize is you don't need to figure out who owes who money. That's something you can do at the end. All you need to do is figure out how much money people are owed in total and how much people money they owe, and then you just tally them all up, and then at the end, then you can figure out who gets who. Because normally the way you did it, at least this is the way I did it the first time I was on that big holiday with a load of friends, is I was like, I think it was about 10 of us, I can't remember. I basically just drew out a big web, and it was just like, okay, I drew an arrow, I drew a directed graph. Hello? Animal Crossing? Oh no, don't tell me you crashed. Oh no! Okay, well, I guess I'll be back. As we're loading back in here, I think we're loading back in. Okay, press L and R on the controller, fair enough. disconnected my Joy-Cons apparently, as we're loading back in here for Animal Crossing. Yeah, so as I was saying, what you basically need to do is just find out, you don't need to, oh yeah, no, that's what I was saying, is the way I did it before, I suppose, on that big trip around Europe, was I basically just drew like a big directed graph. I wrote out like everyone's names in like a circle, and then I drew like an arrow for like a transaction, be like, okay, draw an arrow from here to there. If this person owes some money, and then I just basically did that for all my transactions. Then anytime there's two arrows which passed over each other between the same two people, I would cross out the smaller one, and then just take away the smaller value from the bigger value, and then keep simplifying that down until I got the fully simplified graph at the end. And, you know, transitional properties as well. Yeah, so basically if one arrow could swallow up another arrow, then I would let it do that, and that's how I did it. And I took a lot of time to do that, but you know, I don't remember when I even found out this trick. It was something I thought about, I think, because often when we go out with like friends on a smaller scale, it was just like, oh, you know, we're like 5 of us or something, and then for 4 of us or something, you know, it was like, oh, it'd be a nice way to do this. And I had like a small Excel book where it was very simple. It was just basically put in how much money you owed. But I can't remember exactly when I figured this out. But it's a super awesome trick, because basically what you just need to do is you need to make like a list of all the transactions which happen. Basically, you just need to summarize for every individual person how much money they spent and how much money that they did not spend but should have spent, effectively, aka how much money they owe. You don't even need to put who they owe it to or anything like that. And then you just make a huge list of all of that for each individual person, and then sum it all up to see at the end. So you can do like positive for money that they owe and negative for the other way around. And you sum it all up, and then you take those final values, and you only consider those final values as your transactions, or who owes who. So if someone has negative, that meaning that they owe money to someone. Wait, how we? Oh, it actually reset us quite far back. I feel like I remembered opening these and giving these a tournament, but maybe I didn't. It probably reset us before we got onto the island, which makes sense. Yeah, so then like if you say negative for someone owes money, and then positive for someone is owed money, I mean, you just like sum it all up. If someone has negative value at the end of summing everything up, someone else has a positive value, then you just know that they are, the person with negative value owes money, the person with positive value is owed money, something like that. And then from there you can do a much more simplified web diagram, I suppose, of who owes who money. In which case you can do it even even simpler greedy method, where you just take a person who's owed the most money, the person who owes the most money pays them, and then the person who owed next most money pays them until, you know, they have the money they need, and then they pay the next person who owes the most, etc., etc. And it still just like shimmies its way, it simplifies its way down. And you might be like, you know, and you might try it yourself. Like, I don't know, I guess I'd give an example using like Alice, Bob and Charlie. I think those are like the typical names always used in like British school tests, where A, B and C. So if like A owes like £5 to B, and then B owes £3 to C, and C owes like £6 to A, then like £2 to C, £2 to B, you'd be like, oh, you know, I had to like cancel out the one between B and C, then I had to cancel out the thing from A to B to C, could just go A to C, then cancel out A to C. When what you can do is you look at person A, and maybe like, oh, they owe £5 to, I can't remember what the numbers I said, £5 to person B, and they are owed £2 from person 3. So they overall owe £3 to someone, question mark. And then B, you do the same for B, and you do the same C, and let's say that A owes £3, B owes £2, and C is owed £5 or something, then you know you cancel it all out. It's like, oh, very easy. A and B pay £3 and £2 respectively to person C, and you're done. That's literally all you need to do. Obviously, in that small scale, you could probably just work it out by hand, but if you have like 20 people or something, this is a far, far easier way to do it, because it's something which you can do on an Excel spreadsheet. And it works when you have so many like different transactions. You know, like what if A owed B like 20 different transactions of varying amounts, but B owed money to A on like 6 different transactions of larger amounts, or things like that. So yeah, I mean, I recommend you go try it yourself. It absolutely works. You might, you know, want to think to yourself, hey, mathematically, dear darling, how does this work? You're a mathematician, tell me. And the answer is, I actually thought about this, you know, while I was watching today. I was just like, you know, because I was in the process, I suppose, of filling it all out, and I had a conversation with my friend, during quite a fancy dinner, I suppose, about how the maths was going to work out. And, you know, I told her about this, and then she was just like, okay, but how does that work? And then, you know, I spent some time convincing her, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm convinced. She's very smart as well. She's very mathematically minded too. And we did a discussion about that, about like what would be the optimal way to do things. Anyway, very nerdy stuff. But I actually thought about like what's the most like, I mean, obviously I can talk about like direct graphs with her and she wouldn't understand in mathematical terms. But I was like, what would be like the most layman's explanation for how this works? And like, what's the most digestible way to understand it? And I think the most digestible way is to imagine you're adding another person to your group of people who owe each other money, right? And we're going to call this person like the money pot. They will never, on your like holiday or on your expenses, they will never purchase anything, and they will never, you know, owe money to, and they will never have someone purchase something for them. So their net result is always going to be zero. You know, they are always never going to be, like, in total, they should never be owed money. They should never need to pay back money because they're not a real person. We're adding them just for fun. And then basically consider every single transaction between people in your, you know, party. You know, like, as I say, A owes B £5. And instead of saying that, say A owes the money pot £5. The money pot now owes B £5. Fundamentally, it's the same thing. In fact, we made it more complicated. Rather than going from A to B, it now goes from A to money pot to B. And then what you can do is you do that for every single transaction there possibly is. And at the end of it, what you're effectively going to do is you're going to have everyone paying the money pot some amount of money based on how much money that, you know, they owe people, and then them owing from the money pot the amount of money that they are owed from everyone, right? Basically, all the transactions need to go through the money pot. And then you can think about it in a sense and be like, okay, so fundamentally you can kind of see that because the money pot should have a net value of zero, the amount of money which should be paid to the money pot is going to equal the amount of money which is going to be taken out of the money pot. So then you can think about it in the sense of, okay, that just basically means what you can do is you tell everyone, hey, okay, however much money you owe, let's put it all in this pot, in this money pot, and then however much money you're owed however much money you owe, put it all in this money pot, and however much money you're owed afterwards, take it out from the pot. And provided that everyone in your party is honest and they don't take more than they should or make a mistake, oh hello Scorpion, the money pot will take in all the money of all the expenses, and then all the money will be perfectly taken out again, and it will have a net value of zero. And basically that's a way I think is probably the most easiest way to think about it. So if you owe someone money on a holiday, instead of paying it to them directly, you would put it all in the money pot. And so that way you can do it on like a person by person level, being like, oh, I owe every single person on this holiday money. Instead of paying each person individually, you'd theoretically put it all into this money pot. And everyone else would do the same thing, and then everyone would take out the money that owed from there. And then it all just sort of cancels out very nicely. So yeah, basically introduce the money pot, I suppose, to your network of transactions, and it all works out. I suppose if you wanted a more mathematical way to think about it, I suppose, you know, imagine everyone has nodes on a graph or something, and a transaction being like a directed path from one node to another node, and then you introduce an extra node, I suppose, to the entire graph, and all current transactions need to go to that extra node back into the other ones, and then it simplifies down. It's sort of like a big old money thing, just by the pure fact that it needs to have a net zero value, and it just works perfectly well. You also might not understand my explanation. So basically, TLDR, doesn't matter who you owe money or who you owe money from, just sum up your net value of how much money you are owed in total, or how much money you owe someone or everyone in total. And then from there, pretend that's the only money, or the only transactions which have, and then you pay them back, you pay off those transactions, and then you're done. It's crazy. Mathematics can be so beautiful sometimes, and it's actually probably one of the rare cases. Not the rare cases. I think mathematics is actually quite applicable in daily life, but I think it's the one where it's like, oh yeah, this is mathematics which is very applicable to daily life, because it's something which is, one, incredibly useful to know, and two, I think it's easily applicable. Like, if you show someone like how to do this, they'll be like, oh, okay, you know, that's such an easy way, I suppose, of doing things, and rather than figuring things out. via just like, you know, painting out these big graphs. But I can certainly see there's more money, not more money, more messages going on in the. We have a Discord channel, I suppose, of people trying to sort out finances. And someone else has posted something. Which I will contribute to what I had in a bit. Yeah, I forgot what else I was going to say about this. Yeah, I don't know. It's just money works out nicely if you do it like that. Talk to my neighbours. Apparently, I've spoken to no one. That's crazy. But that's the expensive one, so we'll do that. Raymond, are you here? Have I not spoken to any of my villagers? That's actually... They must all be walking about. I mean, I just didn't speak of them. Also, I don't know if Celeste is here or not. I wonder if I should be looking out for her. It is certainly late enough that she can appear. But if she's not up here, then she's not going to be anywhere. Just double check, you know. She might be hiding behind it. She's not. Okay. So she's probably not on our island today. Yeah, so book balancing. What I recommend... I mean... You might be like, is that something you learned from your accountancy work experience, I suppose? And it's not. I don't even remember what my accountancy work experience was basically just a lot of looking up, like, transactions, being like, hey, does this make sense? And then, like, trying to practice on old transactions, but because they were so old, they didn't, like, keep the data for it anymore. So it's just like, okay, I don't really know what to do about that. Bicycle helmet. Dun 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 dun. I forgot what else I was going to say. I don't know, but book balancing. It's just like, I don't know, there's Dear Darling's handy trick, I suppose, for balancing the books. Just work out net values. And it's so much simpler. You don't have to be like transactions back and forth and back and forth. You just got to be like, you just got to find out net values. As a little bit graph theory coming. And there must be a much more mathematical way, I suppose, to represent it using graph theory, but we didn't really do a lot of directed graphs when I studied it, so... I don't even know if I did directed graphs that well. I think I just did like non-directed graphs. So, you know. Anyway, graph theory is very cool. I think graph theory is definitely one of those ones which is actually surprisingly applicable to real life, but it's very hard to apply because it's very theoretical, I think, the maths behind it in the first place. But yeah, I don't really know what I was going to say about that. I wonder if it's not really graph theory. Maybe it's more like what do they call it, like flow systems? I also studied that as well, but that I definitely don't remember all that well. I think it was a part of my graph theory stuff. Anyway, I love graph theory. It's basically long and short of it. If I was to do a PhD in mathematics, it would definitely be on graph theory. Graph theory is awesome. I don't know how to speak it. Well, obviously it's going to be mathematical. I can just tell you a little anecdote. We were having a very fancy dinner, I suppose, when me and my friend were talking about this. Where she was just like, can I have a chat with you? And I was like, sure. I can't remember the exact like verbiage she used or something like that, but it was like, you know, it was about 5 of us all like talking in a group, and she was just like, oh, you know, I need to borrow you for this conversation. And I was like, sure, what's up? And it was like, it's not very interesting, it's going to be pure maths. And then the other 3 people we were having a conversation with was like, right, I'm out. And just immediately checked out of that conversation, which is totally fair, by the way. I don't mean that in a way. It's like, I can't believe it didn't contribute or something. Like, no, you know. We all know our lanes. We all stay in them, and we will cross over and help out from time to time, of course, if needed. That was the thing, me and my friend, we had it down on lock. Anyway. It's still going to take some time until I think everything's going to be sorted. Because, I mean, there's a lot of us, so, you know. Money will be owed for a while. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this episode up here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Twitter, socials down below. Hope you see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. Bye-bye for now.